Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for March 31st through April 6th. One of the strong themes this week in the astrology is this theme of empowerment. And when I say empowerment, the way that I'm feeling into it is this taking in of life force energy into your way of being, into your energy. And as I was preparing for this video this week, I kept getting this image of this energy, this like vibrant, beautiful, light, vibrance sort of like emanating from within the center of you and radiating out. So, this like brightening, um, this empowerment in the sense of there is more power inside of your energy as a being, etc. So that is a little bit of what's happening this week. We're going to talk about Venus and Mercury, what they're doing this week, and Mars, Saturn, Uranus are also making some connections. So a lot of like this further deepening into the Mercury Venus retrograde experience that we're in. My name is Sean McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so honored to share the astrology of this week with you from a depth psychological perspective. So, this week, let's start at the beginning. And I do want to say we are freshly in Neptune being in the sign of Aries. Neptune stays in a sign for about 14 years at a time. So Neptune last week moved into Aries. This does not happen very often. Neptune has about a 164-year trek around the whole zodiac. So this is a very collective transition. You can go back and listen to or watch last week's video, but just to like, it feels strange to not mention that this week because it is such a strong transition, this collective shift in the way that we experience reality. Neptune, our state of consciousness and experience, and our experience of reality as an ever shifting fluid phenomenon. This is very much Neptune, and that there is this simultaneous beginning and ending with Neptune transitioning out of Pisces and into Aries, that there is a closing of about a 14-year-ish cycle into a brand new cycle. This has really heavily involved Venus and Mercury as well, because Venus and Mercury are in this same part of the sky as Neptune. So both Mercury and Venus are still retrograde. They're sort of traveling together in their retrograde process, where they've moved from Aries, this fire cardinal sign, the sign of initiating and beginning and passion and enthusiasm, back into the sign of Pisces, which is where they are now, which is really about experiences and allowing things to come to you, sort of like feeling into things. There's this very intuitive, flowy, soft, sort of ethereal, curious quality about Pisces. They can sometimes feel very ambiguous or confusing or difficult to pin down. And so Mercury, being a symbol of the mind, the thought process, our that part of us that makes sense of things, that makes meaning of things, that tells stories about things, for better or for worse. And then also Venus, this planet of relationships and beauty, love, desire, attraction, the things that we enjoy or find pleasure in. These two are sort of traveling together. So this period of March and into April, there is this strong tone of introspection and contemplation, especially contemplating relational dynamics. And relationship dynamics are so core and foundational. And of course, I'm very biased because I am a therapist, and a majority of the work that I do is working with our experience of relationships and how that informs like really the structure of our life and has such a profound impact on our experience of life and how things work for us. Um, and so um, our relational dynamics, like the patterns that we have in relationship, our experience of relationship is often laid out via our cultural context, our cultural setting, um, within the wider culture, and then the culture of our family system, what is presented to us as normal, sort of like what we absorb, and then the experiences that we have early in life and over time. There's this sort of collecting of experiences, and then that informs the way that we experience life and the way that we experience relationships. So, whenever we have a Venus retrograde, which Venus retrograde happens about every 18 months or so, it is this time of internalizing or introspecting around relationships, but can sometimes be around your experience of um, beauty, attraction, allure, art, the arts, um, the experience of women or femininity, whatever that means to you in your life. And so this week in particular, there is this continuation of that process, and there's a deepening into it in a way that has a particular flavor to it. And so that particular flavor is the North Node, which is about growth. And the North Node is about personal growth via experiences that we have not had before. So we think North Node, we can think North Node, North Star, up, forward, beyond. Going forward into new territory is a North Node kind of symbolism. So the North Node tends to symbolize experiences that are maybe challenging because they're a little bit unfamiliar. I always think of the North Node as like you're learning how to ride a bike, and it feels really wobbly at first, like maybe you need some training wheels or you need someone to help you and support you, and it feels kind of like clunky at the beginning. There's not that muscle memory that has developed yet. And the more that you do it, I don't know, maybe for you, maybe a different analogy. I don't know if you like riding bikes or not, or if you have memories of this, but there's a point where that muscle memory begins to develop. And then there's a sense of freedom and ease and even like excitement and joy in being able to ride the bike. And then you can go other places via that bike. You can transcend time in a different way. You can have different experiences. And so I'm sharing this example with you because we can begin to identify our North Node kind of experiences, like the North Node archetype for us individually, by looking at the things that we maybe know might be beneficial for us, but that feel very like clunky or awkward, like the thing that you want to do, but it's like, oh, how do I even do that? Like, how do I even get there? And it can sometimes feel also like you see other people doing these things and you're like, how is so and so doing that? Like, how does that even work for them? And I think, like, of course, sometimes this can be like a temperament thing or an experience thing. But ultimately, when we move towards the things that just like challenge us in just the right amount, there's this term in psychology called the window of tolerance, and it's really more connected to regulation and regulating the nervous system. And the idea is that you want to stay within this window of tolerance, because if you go too low, there's this sort of like dullness. Um, there's not enough stimulation. But then if you go too high, then that kicks the nervous system into like the fight flight mode, where it's like it's too much, and then um, there is usually like nothing happens in that situation. So we want to sort of like stretch to like a place where it feels like there's just enough challenge or excitement or enthusiasm, but not so much where it's overwhelming. And then that puts us into like, essentially could also activate a a trauma response, even like a small t trauma response. And so I'm sharing that with you because I think that I think it's very easy to say, yeah, you should do the things that are challenging and you should push through it, and just do the things that you know are good for you, and like kind of override your discomfort. But I think that sometimes overriding our discomfort is overriding our inner wisdom without realizing it. It's not really honoring your um, it's not really honoring your intuitive feeling, protective sense of what is right for you. And of course, um, there's some nuance to figuring that out. It's not always clear cut. So that's a bit of what may be coming up for you. And always, whenever we're talking about, so we're still within the midst of eclipse season, and also Neptune being involved in this equation in the background, we're also looking for synchronicities and dreams, and I would say even like waking daydreams. If there's sort of like this image or thought or even like a fantasy that's sort of like rolling around in your mind, we can look at that symbolically and see maybe what that is pointing us to. But I think that with both Venus and Mercury being with the North Node this week, there's something maybe that you're being drawn toward, and it's maybe possibly something new, something exciting, something it might be familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Let's see, what else do I want to say about this? So, because also this is like the retrograde of Mercury and Venus, there could be, or actually, another thing I want to say here about the North Node is that the North Node tends to symbolize increase, like things increasing or wanting things to increase. Like there's like a more quality to the North Node. And so I think that's also why it's important to check in with yourself and temper things and make sure, like, okay, like, is this okay? Is this too much? Is it not enough? Where am I at here? And then the South Node, in contrast, tends to be about decrease or things sort of dissipating or falling away. There's like a reduction symbol to the South Node. And North Node and South Node are always in opposition with one another. There's always this polarity component to them. So this also means that Venus and Mercury are opposite the South Node. So there might be this quality of like things falling away, but then being drawn towards something at the same time. So there could be this increase in your introspection process around your relational dynamics. There could be this deepening into connecting with your values, Venus, what's truly important to you, and how you validate or not what is important to you. There could be this sense of expansive growth when you do slow down and when you allow yourself to wonder what is possible. this like leaning into this Pisces and Neptune quality of like feeling into what is emerging versus deciding and saying, I'm going to make this happen, which of course there's nothing wrong with that. But there's like this other part that we don't often give attention to, which is like, oh, what's happening here? I'm very curious. What is emerging? Yeah, and feeling into what's true for you now. Of course, there are additional synchronicities or omens that are possible around this time. So I think that we can look, I love looking at life as like a waking dream, and that synchronicities can be interpreted or attempted to be interpreted in the way that we would try to look at a dream. We can look at it symbolically. And yeah, I also think too, this is a great time for leaning more into any type of energetic. I'm pausing here because I want to say like energetic cleansing practices. I think that's a term that maybe some people are familiar with, like energy clearing is a more popular term. But I think the way that I'm thinking of it, I wish there was a different term for it. It's sort of like energetic hygiene. And this, we can do this, we often do this by intentionally letting go of something when we transition, like leaving work or leaving an interaction that was maybe a little challenging, and like intentionally saying, okay, I'm done with that. That is closed. I'm moving on to this new experience. I'm going home. I'm going to be with myself. We can do this by taking salt baths or using like a little incense or herb smoke to smudge yourself. You can do this by taking a walk and focusing on the sights and sounds and like really being in the moment. These things are extra beneficial always, but especially now when we have all of this symbolism around sort of being in a more liminal space. So, doing these energetic hygiene practices to allow your energy to flow and allow things that you're picking up throughout the day, allowing that to flow through you and to not sort of like hold that, that allows things to be more clear to you so that mentally, emotionally, you feel more clear overall. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to talk about is we have Mars making some aspects. So Mars is still in Cancer. It's sort of like trekking its way forward in the sign of Cancer. And Mars is making a harmonious, easeful, flowing trine aspect to Mercury and Venus. And so we know this because these planets are in the same element. They're in the water element. Mars is in Cancer, water element, and Venus, Mercury are in Pisces, water element. So they have this in common. They can flow together. A trine aspect like this is more subtle, and it's something that is we can choose to lean into it more so if we want to. We can sort of be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try to like I'm gonna try to create more possibility for these energies to come through. And so in this case, we're really thinking about Mars as an activator for this Mercury Venus like introspection relational focus. I think also too, so I want to say side note, I have focused more on Mercury Venus, I think, here today as like this more internal experience. And I think also it could be more external, where maybe you're having conversations that are healing, that are therapeutic, that are reparative in some way. Venus tends to have this quality around bringing things or people or situations together in a way where there is ease and harmony. So it could be literally bringing people together or doing some sort of communication around enjoyment. Okay. So Mars comes into aspect with these planets, Venus and Mercury, and Mars brings enthusiasm. Mars is emboldening, it's passionate, it's invigorating, it's vitalizing. And Mars is also a symbol of boundaries and agitation, being irked, being annoyed. It is also a symbol of righteous anger. And, like I would say, even anger that is unrighteous. Do I want to say that? I'm not quite sure. I think I really want to emphasize that Mars has a place in our astrology, in our psyche. Like Mars is such a protective function. And when Mars gets distorted or construed, it is often because we are feeling guilty about being angry, or we feel like we shouldn't be angry, or we're being told that we shouldn't be angry, or the anger, or there's a feeling of unsafety or crossing of boundaries that isn't able to be addressed. And so that anger and that frustration just sort of is like a runaway train. It just has nowhere to go. And so that can be externalized. It can also be internalized. And when anger is internalized, it often gets sort of mashed down and can feel like sadness or depression, or like a low mood. It doesn't necessarily have to be clinical depression, but it can sort of feel like this reduction of your energy, this because it takes a lot of energy to internalize and compost anger, when it's like something that isn't able to be addressed in a way that feels good for you. So it's like this sort of like the anger is being it's being manufactured. Is that the right way to say it? That, like, if there's something that's making you mad and that thing cannot be addressed, you're not going to stop being mad. That anger is just going to go somewhere, and it's either going to go out towards other people or it's going to go in towards you. And when it goes in towards you, it gets like funky, it gets stagnated, and it turns into other things that don't feel like anger. And so it can be confusing sometimes, I think. So I'm saying that because oftentimes when we're in a situation that doesn't feel good and we can't address it, then there can be weird like side effects to that. We can start to feel things that don't make sense to us, and we can even start to have physical symptoms that don't make sense to us. So some words by the physician and author Gabor Mate that I want to share with you about this is he said, so he talks a lot about a lot of different things. Some may resonate with you, some may not. One topic that he talks a lot about is this phenomenon of the mind-body connection, and that if there is an inability to identify and express our true feelings, then that over a long period of time, then that can get sort of trapped or manifested in the body via very serious health conditions. And so he said that we learn to read symptoms not only as problems to be overcome, but as messages to be heeded. And so I think really important with this is he's not saying that all health conditions or symptoms are psychological. And he's not saying that if you have a health condition that it's your fault. Like, that's not what's happening here. But he is saying that if there is a symptom that you're having, if there's any, I think, like really any level of pain or discomfort that you're having, that you can look at that symbolically, and you can look at that as your body, mind, psyche speaking to you about something that is happening. And often these things can be generational, intergenerational, they can be environmental, um, they can be a structural symptom as well. And so um, I think that a role of Mars, especially in this like easy flowing harmonious aspect here, after we've had Mars retrograde for quite a few months, from December through to February, Mars was retrograde. So there was like really this sort of like um, immersion, processing of boundaries and anger and frustration, the potential for doing that over the last many months. I think that now Mars is able to come in and bring some enthusiasm, some vitality, a sense of being able to advocate for yourself or for others in a way that feels where there's more of a sense of flow and ease around that. And so I think that Mars also asks us to look at, yeah, like where we want to take action around some of the things that we've been contemplating. And I don't know, that action may take place for you now. It may be more of a sense of these small daily actions also. So another component of this is that Mars is also aspecting both Saturn and Uranus. And this week, Saturn and Uranus are making a more subtle, supportive sextile aspect to one another. And so I think this also allows for there to be subtle opportunities for you to find your empowerment and sense of agency and sense of advocacy, again, either for yourself or for others, through taking action, through initiating, through having a sense of enthusiasm. And I don't know, maybe exploring your relationship to boundaries, or to your no, or to that like expressing anger in a way that feels healthy to you. There's something around this that is very practical, Saturn, and allows for there to be a sense of openness and freedom and saying yes to new things, Uranus. Okay. What else do I want to say about this week? Okay, so other things this week are that are involving the Sun and Jupiter. And also, I decided that I'm going to start here incorporating the asteroid goddesses into this weekly forecast. And so we're going to start that with the asteroid Pallas Athena. And we can think of the asteroids, so there's 4 asteroids, and I'll talk more about them, but we can think of them as like planets. They're physical bodies in the sky. And in this case, the Sun is making a subtle, supportive sextile aspect to both Jupiter and to the asteroid Pallas Athena. And so the Sun is our consciousness. It's a symbol of our ability to be consciously aware of things. So wherever the Sun is aspecting, there is a conscious focus on that thing, and it often means that there is sort of like a taking in the qualities of that other planet or point. There's like an integrative component. And the Sun, of course, is connected to vitality and the sense of the self, this like, yes, this is me, this is who I am. Sun can also be connected to qualities of being seen or being a leader or being visible in some way. And when the sun is in sextile to Jupiter, again, this is a more subtle aspect, but there's this symbolism around advantageous opportunities to give or receive, to share your gifts with other people, or to allow other people to share with you. It's like a very reciprocal, generous, inclusive, like this, like that there is something that you have that other people benefit from, and vice versa. The Sun Jupiter feels very Six of Pentacles in the Tarot to me. There's like this give and take, and that there is a beautiful ease and flow to that. Now, the Sun is also making a sextile to the asteroid Pallas Athena, and Pallas Athena is a symbol of the strategic warrior, the strategic advocate, and Pallas Athena is also a symbol of craftiness and creativity, and using all of your resources and faculties to do things in a way that is very well thought out and creative at the same time. So I think there's this essence here around with the sun making this, again, it's this subtle aspect. So it's not something that's going to be as strong as some of the other aspects that we talked about here, but there's this opportunity to allow in your creative or strategic nature. And Pallas Athena does have this this quality around fighting for someone or something, being bold, being determined, being independent, not being beholden to someone or something. There's a lot of like freedom and excitement and like kind of like craftiness to Pallas Athena. So that's another component of what's happening this week. And then finally, last piece of astrology is we have our first quarter moon in the sign of Cancer. And the first quarter moon is this pivot point. So we had our new moon eclipse in Aries last week. And so the moon is, we can just see one half of the moon at this point in time. So, and this first quarter moon is happening in Cancer on Friday, the 4th of April. So often at this point in the lunar cycle, there is this sense of deciding how to focus yourself, how to focus your energy. It can kind of feel like there are a lot of things that maybe you've started to focus on. And okay, now what do you want to pursue in a more serious or devoted manner? And so just for context, we had that Aries eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries on March 29th. And then next week we'll have the full moon in Libra at 23 degrees of Libra on April 12th. So we're sort of like in the middle of this growth period, and we're still within the what I would consider the eclipse phase. So I think that at this point, especially Friday into the weekend, it may become more apparent to you the things that are starting to feel like there's a beginning or an ending around this particular Aries eclipse that just happened on March 29th. And I think that it can also be a time of letting yourself focus on the things that are important to you, the things that you're excited about. I think that the lunar cycle can help you to ground into all of these contemplations and synchronicities. There can be something a little more tangible that gets activated here possibly. Okay, so I'm going to pull some tarot cards for you. And as I'm shuffling, I have 3 reflection questions for you to contemplate throughout the week. So, first is, where are you being called to reflect more deeply and with more nuance in your life? And I think this, like, reflecting with nuance is really key because there's so much this month and next month and this week that is about allowing multiple things to exist, allowing multiple possibilities and realities to exist. So, where are you being called to reflect more deeply and to allow there to be a multiplicity around things? Number 2, how are your current challenges? Wait, hang on. Sorry, I like started to read that and then I got lost in it. Side note, I feel like when I record these, I'm like really in the Pisces quality. So I appreciate you staying with me when I'm a little more in that Pisces energy than not. So, how are your current challenges? How are they messages or how are they expressions of your psyche? So, the things that are challenging to you right now, how are those challenges maybe either messages for you or how are they expressions of your psyche? And I think that sometimes our challenges can be like a more direct commentary on how we're feeling about something. I think sometimes it can be a little more ambiguous. So, for example, let's take maybe a more practical example. If you are trying to save money for something, for a particular thing, and you're having a really hard time with that, um, and you're like, oh, why can't I just, I have my budget, but it's like something always happens. I can't do it, and this is a challenge. I think, frankly, the structure of our system is set up in a way where it is very difficult to do that. So please be gentle with yourself. Um, and also, I don't know, there might be a part of you that like really doesn't want to um, save money for this particular purpose. Um, it may be that there's a part of you that really, really wants to have your enjoyment now in the day to day, and maybe that is really more of a priority for you. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't or don't need to save up for this thing, but let's say like you need to save up for a new car or something like this. Um, but you um, really love like having delicious meals, or maybe there are, maybe it's even more practical than that. Maybe there are other things that are calling for your attention in the day to day right now. And maybe a new car feels overwhelming or scary or like just something that you don't want to even think about. Then it would make sense that unconsciously there would sort of be this like aversion to that. There would be a putting off of that. And so I think that like the nature of our structure in a capitalistic society, it is more difficult to accomplish these kinds of things. And also at the same time, there might be a part of you that really truly wants to prioritize something different. And again, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, um, do the things that you need to do that are practical for you. And also, I think that when we're talking about Venus, we're talking about what is really actually important to us, not what you like think should be important or what you want to be important, but like what really brings you a sense of joy and pleasure and vitality. And so, anyways, gosh, I went into a whole side tangent about that. So, yeah, the things that are challenging you right now, how are they expressions of your psyche? And also, I want you to be very gentle with, like, where is there like systemic oppression or challenges happening too, that is not always inside of our control, the nature of it. Okay, reflection question number 3 is, what are you excited about right now? And how can you allow space for that? Whatever it is that you're excited about, could be big, could be small. What is it that's calling to you? Okay, so I invite you to get into a comfortable place where you feel like you can be cozy as much as possible. And then, if it feels comfortable to you, if you're able to, you can close your eyes or focus on something in front of you that feels soothing. And imagine yourself contained within this beautiful sphere of light. This light can be any color that you wish. This light is protective, it's nourishing, it's comforting, and it is vitalizing. You may also wish to call in the presence of your spiritual guidance team, your ancestors, whoever or whatever it is that you connect with who is a benevolent, supportive, guiding force for you. Ask that they are here with you to protect you, to help you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand right now. So I'm pulling 3 cards. Bring your focus into your heart, the center of your chest, and from this place, maybe a curiosity, a wondering, a question comes forward for you. If you like, you may pick a number between 1 and 3. And that card will be special to you. Okay, so first card is the 5 of Swords. I pulled this upright. And the imagery in this card, there's a person flying on their broomstick, and they have this like cool cape, witchy hat on, and they it looks like they're sort of like in an awkward kind of way holding 3 different swords in their arms, and then there's one sword above that's pointing down, and then there's one sword below that's pointing up, and they sort of look like they're flying through the sky in a way. So this card tends to come up when there's a sense of it can be like, and when I'm saying this, we're thinking external and internal. So there's like a sense of possible conflict or disagreement, or like wanting other people to do the thing that you need them to do. And this could be, again, like external conflict. It can also be an internal conflict or an internal, like, struggle that's happening. And when this card comes up, it's often a sign that maybe there's a possibility that you may be pushing too hard to get other people to do the thing that you want to do. And it's like, I feel like the frustration in this card, there's like a sense of frustration, there's a sense of disappointment, and there's also like, okay, how do we make this work? How do we find find the place of being able to, like, I'm also thinking about how 5 is an odd number. And so, like, okay, it's an odd number. Things are not working out in a way that feels harmonious. And how do we find a way to fit the pieces together? I'm also just too thinking about the imagery. So this deck, side note, is called the Tarot of Spells and Potions. In this deck, this person is holding these swords in an awkward kind of way. Like, they're uncomfortable. They are like, they can't quite hold them in a way that is easeful. And they're also like flying on the broom. So there's kind of like a lot going on here. So I don't quite know what needs to happen here. If it's setting down one or more of the swords, if, I don't know, maybe she or they can get like a little holster kind of thing for some of the swords, or they can ask for help. But there's like this, things are a little precarious. And so I think when this card comes up, there's this like, this is sort of like, this is where it's at right now. And there's a desire possibly to find a way to be able to set things down in a way that is, that doesn't cause harm, in a way where it feels balanced and there's a sense of equanimity. So we may go back to this card. That's kind of what I'm feeling now. And so again, this might be kind of like speaking to like an inner tumultuousness or an inner trying to figure things out, feeling multiple ways about the same thing. The second card is the Page of Pentacles. And the page tends to be a messenger theme. Like there's information, there's a message, there's communication, there's contact. It can sometimes be a symbol of change and transition. And then the pentacles are about the practical matters of life, can sometimes be financial, can sometimes be around our resources. And this card is really adorable. There's this person in a green dress, and they're picking up a cat kind of by the scruff of the cat, and the cat looks really cute, and it's just kind of like, hey, it looks like it was like doing something naughty that it shouldn't have been doing, actually. And the page in the tarot is sort of like this trickstery kind of quality to it. I think the page is a symbol of a person who, there is like a sort of mischievousness to it, this kind of like trickstery sort of element. And so this person in the green dress, they've picked up the cat and they're looking at the cat really sweetly. They're not mad. And they're holding a pentacle, and it looks like they're sort of in a shop or something like this. So this card symbolizes that there might be some new information, something coming online. This might be something that comes to you from external sources. It might be something that you just sort of have like an insight around. But there is new information. There is new contemplation. I would encourage you to allow for play and like to allow things to be playful. Allow a sense of curiosity and investigation. The page is also this like transmitter of information or of energy. And so it's also like this symbol of connection and sharing and talking with other people as well. So there might be something here around, I don't know, like maybe around asking for advice or seeking advice. There's something here around around being open to new information and new ideas. And so when we have the Five of Swords here, that's sort of like this conundrum kind of card, and then we have the Page of Pentacles. Um, this tells me that there's some new info or there's some new dialogue to be had here that might be helpful. I think the page can also be like a change of scenery as well. So maybe a change of scenery might be helpful to work out whatever conundrum it is that you're figuring out at this moment. Okay. And then the last card is the Four of Swords, and I did pull this one reversed. First two are upright, this one is reversed. Four of Swords is the ultimate card of rest, reflection. There's kind of a quality of contemplation to it, but it's so much more about doing nothing, about just like really letting everything just like in whatever moment you can, like letting everything be and letting yourself rest. That is so important. And in this image, in this card, it's a person um, laying on the bed. Yeah, they're laying on the bed. They have their legs up the wall, and their kitten, their black kitten, is laying on their belly. And they just look like really peaceful and relaxed. This card can symbolize meditation or mindfulness or being in a place where you won't be disturbed, sort of having the ability to contemplate. And it really is this like encouragement to find retreat and to find rest in whatever way that works for you. Now, it was reversed, though, so what does that mean? You might be asking. So I'm not quite sure. You'll have to see what resonates with you here. With this card reversed, it could mean maybe possibly maybe you're resisting getting the rest, like maybe you're not quite getting the rest that you actually need. Um, Maybe there's an aversion to that in some way for some reason. Maybe it's not possible for you at this time. Maybe you think it's not possible, and maybe it's a little more possible than you think. Um, it could also be a symbol, I think, too, of this. What do I want to say here? Kind of like confusion about how to rest. Because when I'm looking at this card, it kind of feels like things are upside down. And like even looking at this card, the swords, if it's reversed, the swords are like pointing towards her. And so there's this kind of like things are topsy turvy, things are mixed up. So it may be a symbol. There's a lot of um, emotional dysregulation, like things are feeling very chaotic, there's a lot of anxiety. Um, it could be a symbol also that um, not resting is hurting you in some way. Like maybe the stress is building up so much that it's harmful. And this is a gentle reminder to do as much as you can to decompress when and where you can, even if that is just literally at the end of the night putting your legs up the wall for a couple of minutes. Feels very therapeutic. It's very sweet. Um, so as I'm looking at all of these, it's sort of interesting. There's this like conundrum that you're experiencing, or things are maybe a little bit unclear. There's kind of like a lot cooking here. There's a lot to suss out. And then there is some new info that is available to you, that is presented to you. And then maybe, possibly, there is a period of, ooh, okay, actually, yeah, okay, I'm feeling this now. So, this new information that comes to you, it may require you to sit with it for a bit. Like, it may not be I don't know if you've experienced this where like you find something out or you get some new information and the ramifications of that are not readily apparent for some time. Either you have to like think about it and then you have like an epiphany later. Maybe it takes you a little while. I'm this way sometimes. Something like isn't super clear to me until I've had some time to process it. And so you might need some time. Like that might be the reversal component of this. You might need some time to process the info, the literal info, or the like these synchronicities or psychic impressions, or the intuition, or just like literally your thoughts and feelings about something that is maybe a little complicated. You might need to sit with it. All right, that is your weekly forecast for this week. I so appreciate you, and it is such a joy to share this with you. I hope that you have a most easeful, smooth, and safe week, and I will see you next week. Bye.